So here's Fox and Fiends talking about our mayor-elect and their correspondent Gianno Caldwell, who went out to a diner to get the opinions of those in the diner regarding Brandon Johnson's inauguration. And the funny part about that is going to come at the end of it. So
that's right.
Okay, in just a few hours, the Windy City will welcome a new mayor.
Brandon Johnson, poised to become perhaps the most progressive mayor that Chicago has ever seen.
Like,
so what do the people think of this?
Like, that's a bad thing. Okay, go on.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to them and it's like the things that they use as dog whistles on this channel, and you're like, what's the big deal?
Well, look, we've also talked about the fact the phrase, unfortunately, the label progressive has been bastardized thanks to the squad, thanks to those on the left who aren't progressive, but they saw it as a branding opportunity to steal. So
the people of Chicago. Let's ask Gianno Caldwell. He joins this morning from Rosie's Home Cooking in Naperville, Illinois.
I'm sorry, where? Did you say Naperville?
He's asking people who don't live in Chicago, who aren't affected by what happens in Chicago or this new mayor's policy. This is like everybody in the suburbs prior to the election who had an opinion on this, like they had a stake in it. And I would tell them, do you live in the city? Well, no. Then shut up. Go deal with your mayor in your suburb or your municipality, because we here who are living in Chicago understand what Palos Paul is all about. And we know what's coming look, he was so relieved he didn't win, Ed. I personally spoke to someone who knows somebody in his camp that said, yeah, he didn't want to win. He was relieved. Everything we've assumed was true.
Gianno.
Good morning. That's right. We're talking to folks here who happen to be from Chicago. We're right outside of Chicago. Big Dale, I'm so sorry for the loss of your son in 2021, Keon. You had a birthday party for yourself and you decided to take it to the north side of Chicago because you believe the south side to be unsafe, and he was still murdered.
Pause it for a moment.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Do you see how right out of the box, he's painting an image of dangerous? Look, I feel very bad that this gentleman lost his son. Okay, obviously, nothing but sympathy and support and I mean, you can't imagine what the loss of it. But why are you leading with that? What does this have to do with asking people what they think about the new incoming mayor? Nothing. He's slanting the story from the get-go by painting Chicago as the violence-ridden, gang-infested city. But he could have shared that with this gentleman off camera.
He's also and the guy he's talking to is wearing a Detroit cap too. So
it has no place in the story. No place in the story that he leads with it. Okay, let's play it.
Awesome. How are you doing, and what do you think about the election of Mayor Brandon Johnson?
Well, I think it's a fluke. I don't think he's going to do any better than Lori Lightfoot. I have no confidence in him. He's already coming in the gate saying the wrong thing. Like we had to leave the south side to go to the north side, thinking that my son would be safe there, and he still was murdered. So I don't see anything turning better for Brandon Johnson with him being in office.
This is a horrible tragedy that this man moved from the south side to the north side, and he still lost his son. What does it have to do with Brandon Johnson?
Nothing.
Johnson wasn't even mayor when he lost his son. Johnson had nothing to do with the policies with the Chicago overfunding the police department, which aren't we always told more cops, more money is going to make everybody safe? Apparently it didn't in his son's case. But this is just how grossly propagandistic we know this, okay? And it's not like CNN doesn't engage in the same kind of propaganda for the neoliberals. But right out of the get-go, you see the tactics that you use, the psyops that they're using to push buttons in people to be like, well, yeah, they're right. Brandon Johnson's going to be horrible. This man lost his son because Chicago's a hellhole, and Brandon Johnson's going to continue that. That's everything you just saw in this first minute of coverage, what they're telegraphing.
Yeah, with no evidence of what Brandon's going to be able to do. at the time that they're doing this, he was just sworn in, or just before he was sworn in?
I think this was right. This was right before. Yeah, about to be sworn in. This happened on Monday. They're asking people on Monday.
Yeah, right.
Clearly, Brandon Johnson's going to be like Lori Lightfoot. Again, what a leap. The reason people voted for him is because they didn't want anybody like Lori Lightfoot. And he campaigned on a platform that indicated, from all appearances we're hoping for so far, he's going to be vastly different from her. All right, let's run it.
Again, I'm so sorry for your loss. We got a lot of folks here from the city of Chicago, right here in Naperville, that we're talking to. We got a young person here. He's 19 years old. Do you feel safe going into the city of Chicago?
Absolutely not. There's just about nothing being done for the crime rate. And so I wouldn't go alone with a friend, maybe with a big group, but definitely.
Was it? Then fine.
How old is this
Stay,
guy?
19 years old, he said. Stay in Naperville then. You don't need to come into Chicago. It's a long trip. Stay where you're safe in Naperville and hide under your bed if that makes you feel safe too. Because again, leading with, do you feel safe? Brandon Johnson's going to be sworn in. Do you feel safe? And you know what's really absolutely disgusting about this, Ed? This is a black reporter dog whistling that a black mayor means that Chicago's not going to be safe.
Yeah, well, it's almost like he's giving him permission to be racist by asking him if he feels safe.
Yeah.
So it's extremely offensive for him to frame it this way.
And here's what Art shares. This is a setup. A producer in New York asked a producer in Chicago to seek and create content for reporting on our election and create a racial divide, views on Fox. It's been staged.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Not going into the city alone.
Yeah. And that's a shame, because since I've been covering this issue and live in Chicago,
What issue?
times, I continue to hear the same thing from
Live in Chicago where? You're in Naperville.
Yeah. What issue? All you're talking about is crime. You're not talking about the root causes of crime. You're not talking about all the shit we talk about till we're blue in the face here Tuesdays and Fridays on how you can reallocate resources to reach and save kids in underserved communities with opportunities, education, mental health, and other things that would make them more secure. But that doesn't, no, it's all performative, reactive. We have to feel safe. I talked to someone who kept insisting that the only way to change things was to throw more people in jail, because then those who would be inclined and tempted to commit crimes would realize that they could potentially go to jail. And I said, you're operating from the mindset that they feel like they have something to lose. They don't. You live in a North Side community. You've grown up differently. You've lived a different life where you do place a value on your life, and you know what you have to lose. A lot of kids that get involved in crime don't feel like they have anything to lose. So seeing someone go to jail, it's not going to stop them, because they've already been what's the word? Not trained. They've already been programmed to understand and feel that they don't matter. They don't matter. So why not go hook up with a gang that's going to give you some protection, maybe make you a little bit more money dealing drugs than if you got an extremely low-paying, ridiculously underwage job. And on top of that, you might come from a family where your parents suffered the same kind of neglect and abuse before you, that they don't know any better, and they're neglecting and abusing you as well. That's why criminals, they've got nothing to lose. They're desperate. So this mindset of like more cops, more people in jail is going to send a message to everyone who wants to commit crimes. Stop watching TV and movies. That's not how it works. If you grow up in a community that's neglected and left behind and abandoned, and you've lived your life from your childhood feeling like you don't matter, if the time comes where you need to make a moral call, like do I do this to survive, or do I do things nice and continue to suffer? It doesn't matter, because they don't feel like they're valued anyway. All right, let's play the video.
from young people. They don't feel safe going into the city of Chicago, including downtown, which historically used to be safe. And we got Sabrina here. Hi, Sabrina. How you doing? All right. Thank you for being here. So you used to be in Chicago. You were born and raised there, and you decided to leave. Why?
It wasn't safe anymore.
Yeah.
Gee, you think
Everything's
there's a
about
problem
safety.
with safety?
Yeah.
Do you
Everything's
feel safe?
I don't
Was it safe?
I don't feel safe. That was the slant of this Fox and Fiends segment. Go ahead, Ed. What were we going to say? I'm sorry.
I don't feel safe to continue the video. Should I feel safe? I don't know if I'm safe enough to press the button for the video to feel safe.
Andrew Golick shares, I've actually felt safer in Chicago than the suburbs, so the guy is totally a privileged douche. Feel safe in Naperville when there's a herd of buffalo just north of there that the indicator is something going oopsie. Technical term is the herd suddenly dying. Yeah, and Andrew also points out this: the homophobia and racism out in the suburbs is quite strong, some more than others. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it travels in different suburbs. I would imagine Naperville must be one of the more racist ones, but I'm not going to paint with too broad of a brush. I have very good friends who are from Naperville originally, and they're not racist at all.
So look, also he's making sure to. I mean, there was one white douche before this woman, but he's singling out and asking people of color, do you feel safe? Not what brought you to Naperville? Why are you here? Are you from Chicago? What did you like about Chicago? What didn't you like about Chicago? What's the lead question? Did you feel safe?
And this is and I'm just looking at the clock in the upper left on this video, and it's like almost 6 a.m. Central Time when he's doing this interview. So who's in this place at 6 a.m. Central Time, and why are they there?
Ladies and gentlemen of our viewing audience outside Chicago, I live here and I feel safe. And let me tell you something else. A month ago, I was working with a client on the south side, 87th Street, going down there twice a week to work on a project I was editing. 1 week I went down there, the entire corner was cordoned with yellow tape because there'd been a gang shooting there. There had been a gun violence incident. Someone had gotten killed. I went to her house. I worked on editing the project. I left. I felt safe. Why? Because I was aware of my surroundings. I understood that it could happen on the north side. It could happen on the west side. Crime can hit you anywhere. It has nothing to do with where you're living. It has to do with being aware of your surroundings, being careful, being vigilant, getting in and out of places safely without living with this mindset, I have to hide under my bed because I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. I felt safe going back and forth because I was basically minding my business and being aware of what was going on to get in and out of places safe because I needed to rely on myself.
And I think it's also important to realize that, being safe and feeling safe are two different things. There are some people in the city who all they want is the worst authoritarian policies put in place so that they can, quote unquote, feel safe. Whether or not they actually are safe due to whatever these policies are that they want, leaves, we don't know. But it's probably more important to have a situation where everybody is safe rather than a handful of people feel safer.
And let me also quantify, Ed. I mentioned I was on the south side at 87th Street where there had been a shooting on the corner with a fatality. I live on the north side, a block away from Little India, and there have been 2 shootings in the alley a block away from me over the past, 3 in my surrounding blocks here over the past 2 years. And I still feel safe where I live. Again, Ed just made a great point. Are you safe, or is it about how you feel, or what is, and how you deal with it? You're never going to be completely safe. You live in a suburb and you feel safe because you live in a suburb. Newsflash: killings and shootings and bad things happen in suburbs too. But there's optics and a magnification on the city of Chicago, because of the gun violence. Obviously, I mean, we can't pretend that there isn't a epidemic of violence especially as it relates to gun violence in the city or any major city across the United States. But this sense of like, we have to throw more money at the cops because they're going to put more people in jail. And then I'm going to feel safe knowing more people are thrown into jail because it's going to send a signal to other people not to commit crimes. Grow up. Grow up. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. You need to start focusing on how do you put policies and support and safety nets in place for younger people who might not learn any better because of the households that they live in, wherever they live. You know, someone said to me, well, you know, it's because they don't have fathers in the house. Okay. So if they don't have fathers in the house, how are you going to like solve that problem so that they've got a safety net with some kind of parental guidance? No answer. So stop. So, you know, yeah. Okay. So if the households don't have fathers in them, your solution is wait till they commit crimes and throw them in jail. Shouldn't it be? Yeah. We recognize that there are a lot of kids, unfortunately, who don't have the right influences. So what do we do to help give them that safety net and give them the guidance that we hope that luckily we got as kids from our parents because we were lucky? You're going to say? I'm sorry.
I just had a brain fart. I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay. Andrew Golick shares, and I'll share this until maybe you remember what you were going to say. I definitely felt much safer in Rogers Park with the one gunshot than I have ever around the significant conservative presence in Mount Prospect. Interesting. Yeah, why don't all those authoritarian types move out to Naperville or other suburbs? Look, we're not going to pretend that there isn't a horrible gun violence and crime epidemic in Chicago, but what Fox News is doing here has nothing to do with them wanting to solve the problems of crime or to save the victims of crime or gun violence. This is because a black guy got elected mayor, and they want to continue to perpetuate the fear porn that nothing's going to change because the white guy, the financial wizard who didn't really want it, who had all of his wealthy donors support him so that they could carve up the rest of the city for themselves, didn't win. Let's play the rest of the video. I feel safe playing it.
Okay.
I didn't feel comfortable or safe, so I had to leave.
So as you know, Brandon Johnson is being inaugurated today as the 57th mayor of Chicago. What do you think?
I don't think he'll do well, but I hope he can do something better than Lori Lightfoot.
All right, fair. Thank you for that.
Confidence in his ability to do better than Lori Lightfoot?
No.
Yeah. Why?
The things that he's been saying already, it doesn't seem like he's going to enforce any type of policies or anything to prevent violence. Or
what things has he been saying?
Yeah.
She clearly didn't see his interview that we shared from 10 years ago on Tuesday night.
It's
what she's referring to. She's referring to the radio interview where he referenced defunding the police because that's all they ran with.
Yeah, or basically, I just remembered what I want. I saw this tweet on Twitter from a guy named Robert Durden, and part of his tweet says, "Is it the way you truly feel, or is it the way TV told you to feel? If you're not constantly doing this by asking yourself that, are you allowing your emotions to be programmed by propagandists?"
As Snork Y2K just shared, were these people brought in the place just for the interview?
Or a free breakfast?
Or did they vet them and ask people ahead of time? Did they select their interview subjects ahead of time to know the answers that they were going to get?
It's very possible.
Art says, I don't think the suburbs are just as safe. A cow ran wild around a suburb a couple of weeks back. That's
right. That was a pretty cool gag.
And the cow's name was Ellison Arwadi. Oh, wait a minute. Did I say?
No, it was Blossom.
It was Blossom. Sorry.
It was Blossom. I remember.
I'm being mean tonight. I'm sorry. Out with the garbage. Anyway, all right, let's continue the video.
Well, you heard it here first, and I got to tell you, we continue to hear the same thing about Brandon Johnson, and I'm scratching my head. How did he get elected? And a lot of folks here are doing the same. Back to y'all at the couch.
They live in Naperville. They couldn't even vote in the city. They're scratching their heads. They don't have to worry about it. Stay in Naperville, okay? Leave us alone.
Yeah, what a terrible framing. Just super lazy reporting.